welcome. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, facebook.com/CRN Talk. So happy to be joined by Mr. Richard Nixon, a noted practicing attorney, author, America, An Illusion of Freedom, scientist, constitutional scholar, veteran, and all-around good guy and patriot. We are so happy to be here, and we were talking about Jim Acosta. So Jim Acosta is known to have a very contentious, combative, journalistic style. Some might call it grandstanding.
Exactly.
And he was ejected after a pretty surly exchange he had in the White House press briefing. And CNN sued, and they were joined. I believe this is known as an amicus brief, where other journalistic organizations will submit to the court their. Could we explain what an amicus brief is?
Well, amicus brief just simply means friend of the court, and basically where you have an interest in the litigation, you have to get court approval, but if the court does approve, then they permit you to submit your documentation to support or to oppose whatever issue is before the court. Interestingly enough, Fox News also joined. However, one American news channel went against it. They sided with the president.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So a lot of journalistic organizations, news organizations, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Fox News, like you said, Washington Post, they joined in saying, hey, you can't do this. And initially, a lot of people, I thought this was a First Amendment issue. I mean, censor the freedom of the press, blah, blah, blah. But really, it was a Fifth Amendment issue, the due process, because, like you said, there wasn't any rules in place on what conduct is acceptable in the White House press briefing. And by not having these rules in place, that causes a due process conflict because there's no, what would you say?
Yes.
It's just sort of a prescription of what can happen in the press.
Yes, and exactly what the court really did there was bend over backwards to, if you will, punish the government. By the way, that's something very rare in the world. I remember when Mr. Reagan was responsible for bringing down the Iron Curtain, we sent a lot of lawyers back to Russia to, if you will, educate their lawyers in how we function. And they were literally stunned that a judge would ever rule against the government. They could not accept that. It was a matter of course that the government was always right. It was in the newspaper called Pravda, which is truth. So this is what the beauty of our country, as much as I criticize it. I should say I don't criticize the country, I criticize the government, if you will. But my point is, one of the beauties of this government and country is we actually criticize ourselves, and in this case we made sure that the government did not bear too strongly on an individual. So I think I like the decision, even though maybe the court didn't have to go as far as it did. I think it's a good decision, and the president likes it too. The president said we'll obey it. We'll issue the rules, and if they violate again, we'll throw them out, or I'll just leave.
It's so interesting. I think you're right. I agree with your viewpoint there, Richard, about, there's plenty of, I'm just thinking about what's going on in Myanmar and around the world, that when a journalist, runs afoul of the government, he can wind up either in jail or be disappeared. In this instance, Jim Acosta was rude to somebody. They said, hey, sir, please leave. And he was able to sue and, and get a favorable decision for his news organization. And so now moving forward, what the Trump administration did, what the press corps has done, is that now they've codified those rules of decorum in written form. And so now that allows for due process. That's correct.
Exactly, because again, as we've read before, due process in layman's terms might be looked at as simple fairness between the government and the people. That is, the government has an obligation to tell you what you can do or cannot do. If they're going to punish you in some way for doing or not doing an act, it must be made clear to you what you can or cannot do. And that's called due process.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, they've codified the rules of decorum, and so now all journalists must abide by those rules of decorum. Otherwise, consequences could follow. Which sounds like a fair, a fair resolution of this issue.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So Jim Acosta, be nice. Moving on. So big news this week. Shortly after the election, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, former senator from the great state of Alabama, resigned.
Yes.
which some say maybe he was asked to resign. Some maybe say he resigned on his own volition. And I know, Richard, we've spoken in previous sessions about, Jeff Sessions was doing some stuff under the radar that, a lot of constitutional textualists really appreciated and agreed with. But politically, apparently, his position became untenable. And so now we have a new acting Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Matthew Whitaker. And I think he read your book, Richard, because at a campaign forum in 2014 in Iowa, he was asked, what are some of the, the legal decisions from this country's great history that you find confounding? And he said Marbury versus Madison.
Yes, and that's, of course, with my book, that's chapter 1. Again, I have to make it clear that this is not a slam against this country. It's a slam, though, against the people, some of the people that are in our government that operate this country. And again, it goes back to Marbury versus Madison, which, again, we've said before, maybe ad nauseum, that the Supreme Court in 1803 under the Marbury versus Madison case simply said that they, the Supreme Court, had the constitutional right to void acts of Congress. Now, interestingly enough, that does not exist in the Constitution, but Chief Justice Marshall reasoned that since they were the ones that heard all the cases, it was only natural that they were the proper body to determine whether or not law was constitutional. Interestingly enough, many of the people have called Mr. Whitaker an oddball because he held that or holds that view. However, besides myself and several other people I know, Thomas Jefferson also shared that view. He was president in 1803, and he railed against the Supreme Court doing this, saying, how can the Supreme Court assume power it wasn't given? If such a tremendous, powerful power was intended to be given, surely it would have been expressly stated in the Constitution. Find it somewhere. It's not there. In fact, this was supposed to be a government of 3 co-equal branches. If one branch can overrule another, what does it do to co-equality? It's not equality.
I think that was his broader point, just gleaning from the text of this interview he gave, is that he really believes, as we've discussed on this show, and as element which is outlined so eloquently in your fantastic book, American Illusion of Freedom, is that the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, has actually become the supreme, no pun intended, branch of government, because they are the ones now not only interpreting law but making law from the bench.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what Mr. Whitaker was referring to. He's also a big fan of states' rights, and he, he's got a lot of blowback from some legal scholars around there about the Texas Supremacy Clause, but the original sin about the Supremacy Clause and about applying the Bill of Rights to the states comes from the things we've talked about on previous sessions, Marbury versus Madison being one of them.
Yes.
So we're gonna, after we get back, there's been a lot of news out there about the legality of his appointment in general, about acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker's appointment, and we're going to talk about that right after the break, and then we're going to move on and talk immigration, you guys. So stick around. We're here, Richard Nixon Live, hanging out in the Legal Lounge, Siren Digital Talk Radio, SirenTalk.com, Facebook.com/SirenTalk. All of our past sessions are available on YouTube. Just search Richard Nixon Live on YouTube or go to our Siren Digital Talk YouTube channel. We have the playlist there as well, you guys. So stick around. Short break. We'll be right back talking all things legal, all things constitutional with the genius, Mr. Richard Nixon. We'll be right back, you guys.
Hey.
Stick around.
That's slight exaggeration, Mike.
When you really want Italian food, you have got to get to Columbo's. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club. Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Now indulges of plenty and good fortune, this is a call to action. It's holiday party time. You have been assigned the awesome responsibility of planning the Christmas gathering. No gnashing of teeth, no worries. It's time for the very best office get-together ever at Columbo's. Good Time Central, 323-254-9138. Jazz every night. Columbo's family award-winning Italian recipes coming to life and award you with an abundance of yummy, mouth-watering steaks, the freshest fish, and the world's greatest meatballs, all for a mere pittance. Party time at Columbo's, 323-254-9138. Make your reservations now. Columbo's, that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. The holiday office party at Columbo's. Manja.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644.
Still got those annoying critters? I'm talking bees and fleas, spiders, ants, roaches, bedbugs, and those disgusting rodents. Have you made that call to Dewey Pest Control yet? What's holding you back? Get rid of them, and I mean right now. When the heat brings them out, it's time to call Dewey, because Dewey knocks them down and keeps them out. Dewey's an 89-year heritage California family business with 32 offices statewide. Think you got those 24/7 wood-munching termites chewing up your house? Call Dewey right now for their free inspection. And all this month, get $89 off with a regular maintenance program. Call 800-209-0900. That's 800-209-0900. Just one call to Dewey does it all. 800-209-0900. Or get your free inspection online at DeweyRadio.com. That's Dewey, D-E-W-E-Y, DeweyRadio.com.
Richard Nixon live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world. CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com, Facebook.com/CRN Talk. We're talking all things legal, all things constitutional. We are here every Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also replays throughout the weekend and available via podcast at crntalk.com/podcaster. Also, videos available on YouTube, CRN Digital Talk YouTube channel. Richard Nixon Live is the playlist. So we were talking about Mr. Matthew Whitaker, the new acting attorney general. Big implications, with immigration, with the Mueller probe, all sorts of. I mean, he's now the chief law enforcement officer of the nation. That's correct, right? The attorney general is considered the chief law enforcement officer of the nation. Okay, so lots of implications there. And upon his appointment, many on the left were not very happy because lawyers have applied legal challenges. For example, Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosch, he's filed an injunction against his appointment. I believe he's concerned about Obamacare. And then 3 Democratic senators, Richard Blumenthal, Sheldon Whitehouse, and Mazie Hirono, filed suit with the D.C. Circuit Court saying the president violated the U.S. Constitution and denied the Senate its right for nomination. Richard, clear things up for us. Is this appointment constitutional?
Well, yes and no. It's a typical lawyer's answer because there is authority for the position, and it's called the, I want to quote this, the so-called Vacancies Reform Act, that he can, in fact, that is the president can, take this step even if officers named under what they call Section 508 would otherwise be available to perform the Attorney General's functions. That is, that even though there are other people, in this case, Rod Rosenstein, who would be the natural substitute, so to speak, in this case where Sessions is gone, the president can ignore that and apply or appoint someone else under the Vacancies Reform Act. And the law clearly says that. However, there's a conflict between the Vacancies Reform Act and what they call Section 508, which basically says that you should follow, the person underneath should take over.
Yeah.
And what this writer says. I'm reading an article by Mr. Menon. He basically says that I know that the president thinks that what he's doing is certainly constitutional. However, using, and we've talked about this before, Mike, as a matter of statutory construction, the more specific language in a vacancy statute might be considered to control the more general provisions of the Vacancy Reform Act. In other words, where there's two laws that seem to say the same thing or cover the same subject, the one more specific tends to control. And it appears as though the one more specific is the one that would go against the president.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's two competing recent cases. Of course, we have United States versus Eaton in the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998. Let's just talk about the Appointments Clause, the actual text. This is from the Constitution, the original text right here. This is from Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. The President shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for and which shall be established by law. And then here is this. It's kind of a contradictory statement. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law or heads of departments.
Yes, and what one writer says is that the Office of Legal Counsel has said that the President is authorized under the Federal Vacancies Reform Act to name executive agency employees who have not been confirmed by the Senate to temporary high-level roles within the Justice Department. Now, the interesting thing is this. If we went through the Appointments Clause, it would be required that the Senate confirm the president's appointment. Mm-hmm. However, in this case, the Senate and the House have given the president sole authority to go around that Appointments Clause, if you will. So the Senate has already ceded their authority to the president. So I find it hard to believe that it would be unconstitutional. However, as we said, using the statutory construction theory, the one more specific will control, and so he might lose on that area.
And just for my liberal brothers and sisters on the left saying that this is completely unprecedented, it's not, you guys. The United States Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel concluded that the appointment was constitutional due to its temporary nature. The Office of Legal Counsel also noted that an assistant attorney general who's not confirmed by the Senate had been acting as attorney general in 1866, and that non-Senate confirmed individuals have served as principal officers in an acting capacity over 160 times and at least 9 times during the Trump, Obama, and Bush administration. So there you go, guys. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
Come to Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante to see memorabilia of movie stars and theatrical magic right in downtown Fullerton, California. The Art of the Great Masters in an Italian town square complete with storefronts of old, Italian butchers and cheesemongers, fruit and wine vendors, seamstresses showing their wares, the romance of Romeo and Juliet. Find our mystical Room of the Moon, and don't forget King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, and who knows what awaits you in the wine cellar. Enjoy the great food. We hand stuff our pastas, roll each and every tortellini, bake our own bread, and make all of our sauces fresh from our private stock of Sicilian family recipes. Pasta to seafood, chicken to award-winning pizzas, tiramisu flown in from Rome. If you can't find something on our menu to tempt you, you don't like Italian food. Try our Sunday brunch, all you can eat, just $21.95. And Angelo's and Vinci's has been named the best Italian restaurant in Orange County 2 years in a row, and our owner has been named Restaurateur of the Year. Angelo's and Vinci's, Fullerton, California, 714-879-4022 or angelosandvinci's.com.
You check things all the time, like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Well, Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Discover is now offering FICO credit scores to everyone for free, even if you're not a customer. And checking your score won't hurt your credit. We call it the Discover Credit Scorecard. And once you know your score, you should check to see if your current credit card is the best fit for you. Check your credit, compare your card. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Enjoy Tiki Live, the best cable alternative choice today, with hundreds of premium live TV programming, including ESPN, CNN, Fox News, Disney, AMC, Bravo, XF, OWN, and CRN Talk. Plus no contracts and low month-to-month service. Tiki Live, servicing North America, including the Caribbean. To get started, visit TikiLive.com to order hundreds of channels, including CRN Talk, at a fraction of what you're paying today. Visit TikiLive.com. That's TikiLive.com.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. That's 800-716-9903.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world on CRNTalk.com. Also available on Facebook, facebook.com/CRN Digital Talk. Also check out the YouTube videos as well. Just go to CRN Digital Talk's YouTube channel. Richard Nixon's a playlist. And joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, noted author, veteran, scientist, Corvette aficionado,
Yes.
and amateur conga player.
Right.
And so let's talk, Richard. An interesting article. All of the lawyers and attorneys, all the ones that are worth their salt, whenever I see them, they always have two things. They have a briefcase, and in that briefcase is a copy of the Daily Journal. The Daily Journal is the paper of record in the legal community in Southern California, and an article regarding the United States versus Wong Kim Ark, a case we've talked about before regarding birthright citizenship, was written. Richard, give us some background on this article and this issue at large.
Well, in this article written by my good friend Erwin Chemerinsky, who is a professor at UC Berkeley School of Law, some people call it Berkeley, but in any event, he actually comes out with a proclamation basically saying that the Ark case, and we'll get into that in a minute, actually authorizes anyone that comes here, even illegally, that has a child, that child being born on this American soil is a citizen. And absolutely nothing could be further from the truth.
And what makes you say that?
Well, because we actually know what the 14th Amendment, Section 1 actually says and what it meant and how it dealt with children of illegals, children of Indians, children of ambassadors, etc. And in order to do that, we need to look, interestingly enough, at my book, Chapter 7. And it says, and I will quote, "The 14th Amendment, Section 1 states in pertinent part, All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, what's interesting about that is we have that little clause in there that says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Yeah, I just wrote that down.
Now, people would say, well, that's just a restatement of the fact that you're born here. Well, no, that's not true, because we know from prior sessions that when we're interpreting the law, we abhor redundancies or surplusage. That is to say, we don't look at and subject to the jurisdiction thereof as simply being a restatement for the fact that you were born here. No. So if we investigate, we get into the history, we look to find out, and we find out that Mr. Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan, who was the author of the Citizenship Clause, basically said that it was intended to exclude American Indians who maintain their tribal ties and persons born in the United States who are of foreigners, aliens, and who belong to the families or ambassadors of foreign ministers. Now, we can get into that in more detail if you like, Mike, but that's the real answer as to the status of people born here of illegal aliens.
Yeah, that comment that you just outlined right there, which would later and now has raised many questions as to whether Congress has originally intended that U.S.-born children of foreign parents were to be included as citizens. And it's, like you just said, you have outlined in your fantastic book, America and Loot of Freedom, that's correct, that they did not want to include. This is, at the time it was about, foreign ministers. I mean, what would happen if, the foreign minister of Russia came over here and had a child, became a naturalized citizen, and then ran for office?
Exactly.
I mean, there's all sorts of implications can fall off that.
So we not only have what Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan said the Citizenship Clause meant. We have that as history. We also have a case, and I won't go into great detail, but we have the so-called Slaughterhouse case in 1872, which basically came down on the same side, basically saying that certain people were excluded to include children of people whose parents owed allegiance to another entity. That was 1872. Then in 1884, we have a case called Elk versus Wilkins. This was an actual case of an American Indian born here in this country somewhere, I think in Arizona, on the reservation. He thought because he was born in this country that he was a citizen, and therefore under the 15th Amendment, all citizens could vote. He wanted to vote. And the court was very courteous and polite with him and simply said, we're sorry, but since your parents owed allegiance or owe allegiance to something, someone, some entity other than the United States, they owe allegiance to your and their Indian tribe, your being born here does not confer citizenship on you. So he was not a citizen.
Yeah, so it's just, in layman's terms, for my edification, it's because at that time, if you were an American, a Native American living on the reservation, you were a sovereign citizen of that particular tribe.
Absolutely.
And so you'd have a divided, what they would say here is divided allegiances.
Exactly. And so, again, the way the 14th Amendment sets it out is you can either become a citizen here by being born here and having parents who owe allegiance to this country so that you grow up with American values, or you can be naturalized, which achieves the same thing. That is to say, you disown or disavow the country of your birth and you accept the values of this country. If you can't do that, you can't become a citizen of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it says right there in plain text. So why? So the issue here at now in terms of immigration is about birthright citizenship, about this term that's known as anchor babies. Is that correct?
Yes.
People come to this country illegally, have children, and then their children are automatically become naturalized citizens.
Yes.
And in your view, that is not the kind of justice that we need.
The children don't become naturalized citizen; they become citizen based on birthright citizens. Now, based on that, because of what we call chain migration, which was instituted in the 60s, the parents have to become citizens, and then they can apply for citizenship for their parents. So you start off with one child being born here, and you end up with 15 or 20 people in the country. And if we have the time at this point, Mike, we can go on further as to other cases that support the position against Professor Chemerinsky.
I want to talk about that after the break. I want to talk more about that, and I want to talk more about a federal judge recently has ruled that all asylum seekers, all immigrants at the border who seek asylum need to have due process and an asylum hearing. And I want to talk about that too. So stick around, you guys, right after the break. Come right back. 2 minutes, short break. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com. Stay with us.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? Newsflash, the president has changed the tax laws, and now you may be able to pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, the tax doctor can help you pay the IRS as little as possible allowed by law. There are new tax laws for business owners, the self-employed, even W-2 workers. If you have a back tax problem or a few years of unfilled returns, new help to save you money is now here. Call right now to see how the new tax laws can help you. Plus, right now, we'll waive the consultation fee and give you a free tax savings report. Attention business owners, the self-employed, and W-2 workers. Make this free call to the tax doctor now and learn how to take advantage of the new tax laws that may help you pay the IRS less.
800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. That's 800-985-1610.
Richard Nixon live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world. CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRN Studios, Hollywood, California. Check us out, CRNTalk.com. Also available on Facebook, Facebook.com/CRN Digital Talk. We were talking immigration. An interesting article was released in the Daily Journal, written by a Berkeley law professor about the United States versus Wong Kim Ark and about birthright citizenship and the citizenship clause. And Richard, before we left for the break, you had some other cases that you wanted to outline to support your point.
Yes, before we get on to Wong Kim Ark, which was an 1898 case, there are several other cases, more modern. There's a case called Lapina, L-A-P-I-N-A, 1914, which basically says that the Secretary of Commerce and Labor, now remember, we're going back to 1914, if they're satisfied that an alien has been found in the United States in violation of this particular act, or that an alien is subject to deportation under the provisions of this act or any other law of the United States, he shall cause such alien within the period of 3 years after landing or entry therein to be taken into custody and returned to the country from which he came. Now, again, 1914, it's very clear that the Supreme Court granted Congress, and you can see the executive branch, Secretary of Commerce and Labor, to do just that, to deport people that they feel are a threat to this country. And before we go, the Knopf case, 1950, has some very startling truisms in it. It has to do with, again, where in this case, the Attorney General feels that someone is a danger to this society. The admissions of aliens to this country is not a right, but a privilege which is granted only upon such terms as the United States prescribes. And this act did not unconstitutionally delegate legislative power to prescribe the condition under which aliens should be excluded. It is not within the province. Okay, this is the best part. It is not within the province of any court, unless expressly authorized by law, to review the determination of the political branch of government to exclude a given alien. So this law, 1950, authorized by Congress and signed by the President, basically says no court of law, unless expressly said so, has the authority to get themselves involved in whether or not the Attorney General decides to exclude a given alien. And the last thing it says is that this particular law authorizes the Attorney General as well as the Secretary of State to order the exclusion of aliens, period.
Period. That's it. That's pretty definitive language.
And we like due process. There's one more. Any procedure authorized by Congress for the exclusion of aliens is due process, as so far as an alien denied entry is concerned. So whatever process the Attorney General decides is appropriate is due process. Mm-hmm. So I see that there's absolutely no authority for suggesting that either Congress or the President doesn't have authority to literally exclude anyone the President decides he doesn't want in this country.
Well, a federal judge recently has said, has offered his counter-argument to that, saying that recently, I think within the last couple of days, that any alien that approaches the border and asks for asylum or sanctuary is required to have an asylum or sanctuary hearing.
I understand that.
And so that's interesting to me, because you said it's due process in itself, as under review by the Attorney General and the Secretary of State. And now a federal judge is saying that, no, we need to go beyond that. We need to actually involve the courts, which you just said in that 1950 case it goes against that case.
And I've researched these cases. They have not been overruled. So I don't know what case, what this particular judge is referring to, unless it's his own political bias. Because, again, it's no secret, and of course, I don't think I've hidden my Republican bona fides in any event, but it seems to me that the advances that the liberal left have made in this country have been through the courts. And with this president and his appointments and his continued appointments, because he's been able to hold the Senate in Republican hands, quite frankly, I believe that the powers that be, at least the liberal powers that be, are desperate now, and they're going to do everything they can to thwart this president and his intentions, which are to fill the vacancies with more conservative judges.
And we're going to probably most likely see this asylum case that was recently ruled on move to the Supreme Court, probably expedited. And now, we have some new justices in the Supreme Court. We have a rightward-leaning court, some might say. Where do you think this goes from here? How do you think the Supreme Court's going to rule on these cases where aliens are granted automatic trial and due process to claim for asylum claims?
Well, again, I think the court is going to realize how ridiculous that is. That is, to allow a person to come in here regardless of how he got here, when the court, when the executive branch has clearly set up an appropriate method by which they will come in and be given an asylum. Again, it gets back to due process and the situation with the White House and that errant newsman. There has to be a procedure. The executive branch set up a procedure, and the court is not going to allow someone to violate the procedure and still get the benefits of it.
Yeah, I mean, we have, each and every one of us have and are entitled to their own political views, but one thing we are not entitled to is to make up things that we want out of the Constitution. And
right.
And of case law, that 1950 case, I think that's a pretty definitive case law right there. And like you said, I mean, if anybody would know, it would be you, that there's no sort of other cases or precedents that have reversed that case. So that's very, very interesting. And we're going to come back right after the break, you guys, and wrap things up. We are here in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live. He's an attorney. He's an author. America: An Illusion of Freedom. If you guys like what we're talking about here, make sure to check out his book, America: An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. You guys, stay with us. Be right back in 3 minutes.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Kaanapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master planned destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or Gulf fairway. Come experience Kaanapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Kaanapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit KaanapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. That's 800-716-9903.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1,800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live, Siren Digital Talk Radio, SirenTalk.com, Facebook.com/Siren Digital Talk. And we're just wrapping up this article that Mr. Chemerinsky wrote in the Daily Journal. Mr. Chemerinsky is a professor at law at UC Berkeley, and he was talking about the Citizenship Clause, the 14th Amendment, and this case, United States versus Wong Kim Ark, a case we've discussed before in previous sessions. And your contention, Richard, is that he got his facts wrong in his argument, Mr. Zelinsky.
Well, I think he knows the same facts we do, but his conclusion is wrong. In other words, he suggests from this Wong Kim Ark case, 1898 case, an outlier, a rare case which held that someone whose parents owed allegiance to another country, that their child, having been born here, was a citizen. Now that clearly goes against all the other case law. But there is a reason for why the court may have gone that way in 1898, and that is because the parents were subjects of the country of China. That is to say, they were here legally. They were legal permanent residents. They had a business here. Their child, or their boy, was 21 years old when he went to China and came back. He was born here. But the point is, what the court did is they realized that since these people did all they could to be citizens, if you will, they were law-abiding, and however, because of a treaty between China and the United States, they could not ever become citizens. Therefore, I think what the court simply did, and although they don't really go into much detail, they simply said that under the circumstances we feel that it's fair that their son, having been born in the United States, with parents who, although not citizens, were citizens de facto, if you will, that child being born here is a citizen. So I think, but it certainly does not stand for the proposition that anyone born here, including people of illegal aliens, is a citizen by being born here. And that's the conclusion that Mr. Chemerinsky draws, and he's flat out wrong.
There you have it, folks. If you have any questions or comments, concerns, give us a call, 818-818-6401, or shoot us an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. And Richard, we got about 2 minutes left, and you said something really profound earlier today when we were prepping for the show. As usual, a very profound man, but about the law in general, about settlement versus justice and truth.
Yes.
Can you just, that was a great soliloquy. Can I get that again?
Well, I, like many other people, when I decided to go to law school, I was, I guess, naive regarding the law. And I had an undergraduate degree in physics at that point. And to the extent that math and science are truth, that is to say, when you take an exam in physics or math, the teacher says, solve the problem. And there's really only one right answer, x = 6, and that's it. But when you take an exam in the law, the teacher asks you to discuss. He expects you to flesh out both sides or a third side. He expects you to show what the arguments are and how one will argue this and one will argue that. And a lot of people get caught up thinking there is a right answer in law. There is no right answer. And likewise, there is really no truth. You don't seek truth in the law, and it's surprising. It was a shock to me that all the law or lawsuits do is actually settle the case. They don't really ferret out the truth, because the liar might win.
Yeah. So in about 30 seconds, is a settlement justice? Are those two terms synonymous when it comes to the law?
Well, if you define justice as the innocent going free and the guilty being punished, they're not coterminal. Sometimes a settlement is justice, and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah. There you have it, folks.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fascinating. We want to hear from you guys. Send us an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. And if you guys knew Richard personally during his time of service, 63 to 65, stateside, 68 in Vietnam as a contractor, we want to hear from you. Give us a call here at the office, 818-818-6401, or shoot us an email, richardnixon@crntalk. Richard, until next week, thank you so much. We'll be back next week, you guys, in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon Live, CRN Digital Talk Radio. All episodes available on YouTube, broadcasting live on Facebook, you guys. See you next week.